Hi, welcome to this presentation from the Port Macquarie Astronomical Association about the winter solstice. On the 21st of June, we recognise that as the winter solstice. It's the shortest day of the year. The word solstice comes from the Latin meaning sun still. That is, the sun stops moving in a northerly direction and starts to move in a southerly direction. Now, it happens this way because the Earth rotates on its axis at an angle of 23.5 degrees. Let me show you how this works. Here is my globe spinning on its axis once every 24 hours or so from east to west. It moves quite quickly actually at 1600 kilometres per hour. But we don't notice that because we're also moving at 1600 kilometres an hour. So here's Australia down here, but because this globe was made in the northern hemisphere, to show you how this works, I've kind of got to turn it upside down. So Australia is now at the top. Of course, this is how all maps should be made, but that's another story. Now, to show you how this works, it's probably best that I take you to the Port Macquarie Observatory. So why don't you come with me and I'll show you how the solstice works. Well, welcome to the Port Macquarie Observatory. As you can see in the background is our dome, and for the purpose of our exercise today in understanding the solstices, we're going to use the dome as the sun. So I've got the world here, and what I'm going to do now is walk over to where the Earth would be from Australia's point of view when there's the winter solstice on the 21st of June. Now this of course is not to scale obviously, but as you can see, Australia is at the bottom of the globe because of the tilt of the axis of 23.5 degrees. So Australia gets less of the sun and the days are shorter. So that's the winter solstice. Now if we fast forward 6 months to the 21st of December, we'll see the summer solstice. So here we are, 21st of December. You'll see Australia is now much higher because of the tilt of the Earth on its axis, 23.5 degrees. And so the sun is much closer on, to more direct to Australia, and so it's now summer as we get longer days and more heat. Okay, now solstices, an observation of them, of course, is nothing new. Homer observed this. No, not that Homer, the ancient Greek guy, the guy who wrote the Odyssey. And in that work, he talks about the turnings of the sun, which seems to be a reference to the solstices. But what about more recent observations? Not everything that we observe or discover in science comes about because of careful, thoughtful analysis. In 1928, when Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, he discovered it because he didn't do the washing up. He was growing in some petri dishes some Staphylococcus bacterium, or bacteria, more than one, and he discovered that there was mould growing, and when the mould grew near the bacteria, it stopped growing. Thank God for sloppy scientists, we now have antibiotics. Now another discovery, admittedly not nearly as important or as significant I guess as penicillin, was discovered as recently in 2007 in Sydney at Elizabeth Bay House. It seems that the property is built in exactly the right alignment to align for the winter solstice. When you open the front door at sunrise, you see the sun coming straight through the house, all the way through to the back door and onto the cliff face outside. Here's a question. Is Elizabeth Bay House the Australian equivalent, or an Australian equivalent, of Stonehenge? In 2007, a guide, Gareth Malone, was there at sunrise on the 21st of June and discovered this for the first time, or at least the first time in recent history. You see, there's no documentation anywhere regarding whether or not the building of the house was deliberately lined up or not. It was just discovered. Now here's the question, was it a fluke or was it part of the design? Well, to answer that question, let's have a look at the person who had it built. This was a guy by the name of Alexander Macleay. Now Macleay was a Scotsman who in 1826 took up his appointment as Colonial Secretary of New South Wales. And as was common practice at the time, the governor, in this case Ralph Darling, granted him some land, in fact 22 hectares in Elizabeth Bay. Now, Macleay had expertise in horticulture and a scientific interest in moths and butterflies, and built botanic gardens and so forth. Did his scientific curiosity, his scientific interest, mean that the house was built aligned to the winter solstice? I'll leave that to you to decide. Before I go, I'd like to express my sincere thanks to James Horan from the Sydney Living Museums, who took the photographs of Elizabeth Bay House. Thank you for that, James. But that's it for me now. Thanks for being here. Please like our Facebook page and visit our website often to see the events that we have coming up at the Port Macquarie Observatory, and I hope to see you there soon. Bye for now.